Welcome, Pallavi. It's good to have you here.
Thanks so much, Magda. It is so wonderful to be connected.
Very cool. We're looking forward to learning from you. So look, I will post Pallavi's full profile later so you can see all of her amazing accomplishments. But to quickly summarize, she is an expert on branding and image. She runs a company. She's a partner at Harmony Consultants, where she works with individuals and groups on the topic we're covering today, branding and self-image. She has experience in marketing, and she's presented this topic on television in front of a national audience in India as well. So she's pretty experienced when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, today it's basically going to be a Pallavi show. She's going to tell us all about personal branding. I do have some questions for her as we go along, but I encourage all of you to please post your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to multitask and pay attention to what you're asking, and hopefully we'll cover everything. But in my discussion with Pallavi before this session, we've realized that this topic is really huge and really beneficial. So today is an introduction to the topic. And today is going to give everyone here some takeaways that you can implement straight after this session, which will be super useful. But in the coming months, Pallavi and I are going to work together on some more online resources so that you can continue this learning past today. Okay, so let's start from the top. What is personal branding?
Yes. I was saying personal branding is something that tells a story. It's your story. It's something that you believe in, and it's something that you live completely. So typically in personal branding, it's where your inner and outer self are in absolute sync with each other, and they create a resonance, something that is felt by people. Okay, you call it vibes, you call it your presence. And in the simplest words, you know, it's basically the impression that you leave on others' hearts. It's what people feel in your presence, and I think that is simply put what is known as personal branding. Obviously, it's an ongoing process, so something that we keep building on, and we keep working on it. But it's something that gives us absolute joy as we work on our personal brand.
So why is personal branding important, do you think?
Okay, so let me put it this way. In the world today, if I don't do it, others will. I'll give you an example. So which means that whether we like it or we don't, all of us carry a personal brand, right? Now, either it's a decision I have to take. Either I take the responsibility and ownership of creating my own personal brand, or I leave it to the world to create it. Now, if I leave it to the world, maybe the world is not so kind to create something that I like to have. So it's better that I have my own personal brand. Now, I'll give you an example. I was working with one of a pharma giant, and also with the top leadership. You know, the challenge was that they were excellent in their skills and content, and that was never a question. But when they went on to the world map, somewhere they could not make their presence felt. So when we started with the workshop and we started doing work on this, we probed further, and then we realized they and I had a similar background, which was that we all came from middle class families, and for us the only focus was education. So education, a hobby, or sports, that's where we all revolved. So we really did not care about creating a presence. Okay. Now, for us, it was this was sufficient. But when we go out in the world, there is something which is also called as presence. Now, that is something where we lack. Now, if I don't create it, if I don't take the onus of creating my own personal brand, then somewhere people start creating their own impressions. And you know that impressions are created absolutely in a few seconds. Then why not take the responsibility of creating my own brand? Because in that way, I will at least be able to decide what I want my personal brand to be. So, I always like this, Magda. I always like to call it an emotional account that I have with people. We all have financial accounts. This is an emotional account, and it is the more I have it, the more trust and credibility I build with people.
I like that. It is about, yeah, control. Who you want, what do you want the world to see you as?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So that makes me think about the congruence, I suppose, the authenticity, versus of how you show up in the world versus how you want to show up in the world. Is that something that is addressed as part of the personal branding process?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as we were chatting before this call, you were talking about that there are kind of core hygiene steps that you take when you're looking at this process of personal branding. So why don't we start off with explaining that?
Oh, yes. So there are interesting rules. Of course, personal branding is nothing, it's no rocket science. These are simple things that we we are aware of, but it's just that at times we have not applied it to ourselves. And as you rightly said, it's for everyone. It's a life skill. These are little things that will only help us in the long run, no matter what position, no matter where we are. So a few rules that I would like to share with all of you. The first one, since it is my story, I need to be brutally honest. So, hello?
Yes, I'm here, I'm listening.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to be honest first with myself, because I need to show myself the mirror first in whenever I start with the process of personal branding. Now, the second rule is I have also to enjoy the entire process because it's a process of self-discovery. There's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just that I need to completely be in the moment, and I have to enjoy that entire process of self-discovery. The third one is gratitude. I need to accept myself the way I am. There is no competition here. So my personal brand is definitely not compared on any scale with anyone else. It's just me. And I have to be the best version of myself. So obviously there has to be gratitude on the kind of person I am. I am unique in this world. And so it just helps me to, be in sync with my core. The other one is pride. Of course, I take absolute pride in the person that I would like to be, and I am, because that reflects somewhere as a very strong persona. And last but not the least is authenticity, because that's the core of a personal brand. That's a key, you can say. The reason is that if I'm not authentic, any child would understand that I'm faking it. And that really does not work. So authenticity is absolutely the key. Now, when I say we have to build a personal brand, it's not basically that I'm blowing my trumpet. It's just that I'm doing things which are subtle and elegant, but yet they're consistently done over a period of time, which is noticed by people.
So it sounds it's like an exercise in building self-confidence almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So okay, I think I can sustain the video sometime.
No, welcome back. Good to see you. Those rules as you were talking, it just sounds to me like yes, it's important how you present yourself in the world, but it's an exercise of self-awareness and confidence and being in your own skin, I suppose.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. So specifically to our audience, since we are talking to coaches and to small business owners, can you talk about the impact or the importance of personal branding to this kind of audience?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing when it comes to a personal brand, is I need to, I definitely need to be myself. That's first thing. So whenever I'm embarking on the process of a personal branding, the first exercise that I do is knowing myself. As coaches, as leaders, whosoever, whichever field we belong in, the reason I need to know myself is because I'm going to establish trust in the person that I'm going to deal with. The person who's dealing with me has to feel comfortable in my presence. Now, I can do that only when I know myself inside out. And that's the reason whenever we start with personal branding, the first exercise we do is knowing yourself. So it's something that we can actually do as a team here. That's a few questions that I would leave with you, food for thought, and you can actually go and try them out. Because once I know this and once I'm comfortable with myself is when I make the other person feel comfortable in my presence. And I think that's very important, whether I'm a leader or a coach, because if a person has to come to me and open up and let into his deepest challenges or fears, he would only do it when I'm first comfortable with myself and I make him do that. Yeah. So let's go into how do I get into the process of knowing myself.
Okay.
Yeah? A few questions then. So what are, when I'm introspecting, I need to spend some time with myself. So and it's not a one-day thing. It's a process that probably would go on for a week or 15 days, where you actually think about what do you want your personal brand to be based on. So a few questions that go with this are, what are your core beliefs? What are your values that you would want to build your personal brand on? Now, how do I actually know what are my values or beliefs? So simplest thing here is through the experiences that I've had, or through the feedback that people would have given me, or the joy and happiness that I get when I do certain things, I know what my core values and beliefs are, and that's the starting point for my personal brand. Okay. The other thing is, is it a cause that I am passionate about, or what is my hobby that I follow consistently? The other thing is, what are my personality characteristics? What is my USP? What are the basic skills, go-to skills that people come to me very often for? All these form a part of your knowing yourself process. Now, I would just like to share with you is I spent about a month defining and redefining my value words. So in the end, if you are able to come across a few value words, it will be really good to start a personal brand with. So I'll share with you my value words that I have found for myself. They are empathy, integrity, and passion. So now, what happens with these value words? Those are those words that I feel define me completely. Those are the words that I know I swear by. They are non-negotiable, and that is something. So they become pillars of my personal brand. Everything that I do, I realize that at least one of the pillars I am going to represent in every action, in every behavior that I do as far as I'm concerned. So the first process of knowing yourself involves, how do you find out your pillars? What are your core words that you find out for? And if you are able to do that, then I think it's a good start.
And so when you're working with people, are there particular exercises that you do with them to get to these 3, 5, whatever value words?
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is basically a kind of a mind map.
Okay.
So you are in the center of the mind map, and then you start discovering yourself with. So there are value words. Yes, I may share that with you. You can share it with others as well. They're basically adjectives, basically
Okay.
words you find, and you kind of think about those words. Do they represent you? Do you
Mm-hmm.
live for them? So when I talk about, say, Pallavi, these are the three words that completely define me. Now, whether I am heading marketing, or I am heading HR, or I am facilitating, or I am cooking, I live by at least one of them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I have found. So in a mind map, you basically first go ahead with knowing yourself with a set of words that will help you define yourself. That's a good start for a personal brand. The next you go is define your hobbies, because as a person, you are a versatile person. You're not just you and your work.
Mm.
So I need to be someone who is versatile in different aspects of life, and that is the reason which will add on to my personal brand. Yeah. The third thing is, if there are any go-to skills. Now, maybe that I am a problem solver, and I would want, through all my experiences, I have been a very creative person when it came to problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is my go-to skill. So whenever there is a recall value to be done, and if there is a challenge area, I should be the first on their recall list as a problem solver.
Okay.
That's my go-to skill. That's something that I would be able to identify myself, and also from the feedback that I get from others. So
I like that. So it's looking at the whole person,
yeah,
which makes sense,
yeah,
right? Because when we're presenting ourselves potential clients, we're not just presenting.
yes,
It's hard to, I guess, compartmentalize life. Of course, there's, I'm sure for me, um,
yeah.
maybe not professional Magda. I think I'm pretty much, it is what it is. I'm pretty consistent, I
It
think.
has to be
But
that
people
way.
have a
Yeah, yeah.
there's a personal side to everyone versus just professional side, but it's hard to just completely separate them. I mean, we are a complete person,
Pretty much
and our clients see
Magda,
that.
you're absolutely right when you say this, because when I talk about a personal brand, it is not the professional side. It is both the professional and personal side put together. Because
Mm,
I cannot be different in my professional life, I cannot be different in my personal one. I have to be the same, and that is where my pillars are going to help me.
yeah.
Yeah. So if patience is my value word, then I cannot just be patient with my boss. I have also to be patient with my spouse. So
Yeah,
that's where it is being authentic, and as I said, authenticity is the key.
I like that. Okay, so
Yeah,
authenticity and knowing yourself.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
So
And
next one I think was self-limiting beliefs.
absolutely. And I think self-limiting beliefs, all of us, we have them. It's a good idea and a good exercise that we take a pen and paper, sit down and write down our self-limiting beliefs very, very honestly. Okay, because they kind of are a hindrance when we embark on our personal branding session. Now, I'll give you my personal example. I have a flat nose, and my paternal side has very sharp noses. Now it's a simple thing, but yes, it mattered to me. All through my teenage, all I did was bother about my flat nose, as though it was a national emergency, and till a point of time where my mother had to intervene and drill some sense in my head. Now, I even went into worst case scenario where I would actually put those clips on my nose to make it straight. So it was that bad. Now, there are certain self-limiting beliefs that kind of hamper in your route. So all I have to do is write them down on paper and evaluate them. Are they relevant? Do they make sense? Really, do they matter now? Or
Mm,
have I just carried my baggage all along, which is of no use right now? So self-limiting beliefs is something that we have to address. There's another self-limiting belief that I had was that knowledge was everything, education was everything, and then I don't have to really present myself. I don't care about how I look to the world because I am what I am. Now, there is always an either or in this. We have to find the and. And the and here is that I can be knowledgeable and I can present to the world the best version of myself. They just go hand in hand like lock and key. So it's the cake, which is the knowledge and skill part, and the icing on the cake is how you present to the world. So again, that was a self-limiting belief, a myth that I had to break before when I embarked on this journey. So it's always a good idea to check your self-limiting beliefs, to evaluate them, and to erase them, so that our journey ahead becomes easier.
So Debbie asked the questions I was going to ask too. How do you recognize those self-limiting beliefs? How do you figure out what yours are?
Something that you have to, so for me, it was a struggle. It kind of drained me of my energies because there was a conflict in my thoughts when it came to education versus grooming. So I used to spend a lot of time debating with myself, this is right, and it has to be like that. It's a waste. It was a waste of my energy. So whenever I get into the process, so when I do my pillars, when I do my value words, I have to actually look back into my life to see, are there any some complexes that I carry, or there are certain hurdles that I carry. So at times I was a very skinny child as well when I was in my teenage, and I used to be told, okay, so we can count your ribs. So that's something that I carried as a burden, which is not required when you grow up. Those are things of the past. So anything of the past which is bothering you, or you've been carrying it, is something that only you will know, because it's your story, because you've lived through it, because it has caused you pain. Now all this I need to keep aside and keep them behind when I have to go ahead.
Okay, so it sounds like that too is a process. I mean, I'm sure that all of us can sit down and think of a few things that always bother me, things I don't like about myself. But I'm sure that it's something that takes time to also figure out.
And in hand in this, to the self-limiting belief, is an exercise which I would truly recommend to one and all. Age is not a consideration at all here. Stand in front of the mirror and appreciate yourself, and that too loudly. So that's an exercise. It may seem ridiculous to start with, or it may seem funny. Let it be, because when I start appreciating myself, it's the positivity that I start feeling within me, and it helps a lot in developing my persona. It has helped me personally. I've been doing that for the past 5 years. Every day when I stand in front of the mirror, it's the sweetest smile that I greet. And it's one positive thing about my persona that I tell myself aloud. Okay, this is what I am. This is what I really like about myself. And it's amazing how the day goes. It's amazing how you feel that within yourself, and you transmit it to the world. So
that's a tough one, I think. I won't speak for others, but even for myself, as you're saying that, I had to take a deep breath, because I'm just thinking of standing in front of a mirror in the morning, and with messy hair and probably both she's on my face, and oh my goodness.
And then the first thing you say is, I have got wonderful hair.
That's a good tip. I'll start there. But that's scary, right? And but it's a good exercise. I think it all goes back to the first thing you talked about, knowing yourself. I feel like, well, I'll have you keep going through your components, but it feels like it all comes back to the same thing. The more you know yourself, the more you can develop your personal brand and actually live up to your personal brand.
Correct. And the more I know myself, the more I accept myself, the more I am comfortable with myself, is the more authentic I am as a person, and that's
And the more, again, going back to kind of what we do,
Yes,
leadership and coaches,
yes,
the more
yes.
authentic you can be with yourself, the more comfortable you are with yourself, people are going to notice that. And I think
Yes.
it translates to your professional relationships as well as personal.
Absolutely. And as a leader, as a coach, it's the authenticity, it's the rapport that you're going to build with people. That is very important. And people will, instantly have a connect with you when you are completely authentic.
Mm.
It's then they simply just connect with you, and they talk to you as though you are long lost friends. So that's the kind of trust and credibility you build when you're authentic. And I think that
Yeah.
matters. Yeah. The other thing that also, the couple of things that do matter in this whole process is, one, I have to be extremely consistent in what I do. So the 3 C's, as we call. One is clarity. The clarity is the purpose, the focus that I have in developing my personal brand, something that starts with my pillars. The constancy is that I have to do it every day. So, which means I have to spend time, or maybe at the end of the day, I ask myself, have I lived up to my core words or core values? And the third thing is something which is known as consistency, which is a challenge thing, because I have to do it every day. In terms of my communication, in terms of my behavior, in terms of the way I appear in front of people, everything has to be in sync with my personal brand. So I have to live up to it every day. Now, I cannot say that, okay, I have done it for a week, now I've got bored, now enough of it, now I'll do it next month. Or it can be a New Year resolution. That's something that I need to avoid. So when I'm consistent, that's when I create a consistent image of myself to the world. And that's how a personal brand is built.
I like your reminder about New Year resolutions, because we are at the end of the year.
Yes.
It sounds like anybody who wants to work on their personal brand, maybe they should start now versus wait until the new year, right?
Absolutely. And there also has to be a list of things that you procrastinate, because if they are, again, going to play a big part in your personal brand, you rather work on that first. So it's not easy. It's easier said than done. But yes, I do have a list of things that I procrastinate. I have tried to work on them the whole year through, except one, and which is exercise. So yes, every morning my husband asks me, can we go for a walk? And I have 20 reasons why we shouldn't. But as I said, I don't want to take it to the new year as a resolution. So I'm definitely going to work on it. So
cool. I'll hold you to that.
So it's good to have a list of things that I procrastinate, because that's not going to help my cause. Yes, I need to be consistent on it. Definitely.
So there's a question, I don't want to answer it now or tackle it later, but it's about changing perceptions. So if you already, we all have a brand regardless of whether we have built one or not. That's the kind of, I think, the point here too, that about taking control of your story. So we all already have a story that's out there in the world. How do you go about building back, I suppose, or for the first time, the real you that you want to present?
Yes.
I'm guessing going through these steps helps.
Yes, it's a very good question, because we all say impressions are created in the first 30 seconds and, to a minute or 3 minutes. What happens that a perception is already created, then how do I change it? Yeah. When I have to change it, yes, as all the steps that we did earlier definitely are going to matter. I would suggest one thing, and that's something that I have done personally and I would like to share with you, is that once I knew my 3 words of empathy, integrity, and passion, I translated them into behaviors. I translated into all the activities that would showcase my words. Okay, and I literally went down to every day. So I mapped my routine, and I actually kind of scripted as to where all I can showcase, whether it is sending a mail within 24 hours, whether it is greeting people, whether it is listening. So if I say empathy is my value, then listening has to be a definite skill. Then I cannot keep talking and expect the other person to listen, right? So I went down into those many details and consistently over a period of 2 months worked on it till the perception was changed to what I wanted it to. The only thing in this is I have to be extremely regular at and relentless in creating that, but changing the perception. As in, that is what I want the world to know, and that is where the perceptions are changed. And I would like to add here, Magda, appearance matters a lot, and we will talk about it maybe later. But because when I'm creating or when perceptions are being created, the first perception that is created is through your appearance, the way you come across to people. Yeah? And whether we like it or we don't like it, the non-verbal part of the communication is very, very strong. And if I take care of that, definitely it helps me create an impression or a perception that I want to create.
That makes sense. Yeah, and it's, as you're talking, I'm just making a list of things that I'm doing wrong. So this is useful. For example, I've done webinars with my hair wasn't this nice, but I guess what I'm trying to put in the world is that I'm inconsistent. I don't know. Anyway, I have some work to do, so thank you for that. All right, let's keep going. So just so you guys know, there is a list that we are working through that Pallavi has put together. So I'm mindful that I want to get through all the different points she wants to address. So so we talked about procrastinations. I think next on your list is vulnerability, which is a scary one for a lot of people.
Yes, I know, because we have most of the times we wear our masks and we do not want people to see our vulnerable side. But as a leader, as a coach, as a person who is working on a personal brand, I think vulnerability is the biggest asset that you can ever have. It's, people simply connect to you when you say, okay, I have failed, or, okay, I really don't know something, or I need help, or maybe that I'm in a completely different cultural setup and I'm new to this place, so help me. So bringing out your vulnerable side only enhances your personal brand. I think that just creates magic as a person. So we don't have to wear masks. We don't have to pretend. We just have to be the way I am. You are just the way I want people to see me. Just very, very transparent. So when they see me, they don't have to think, oh, there is a different side to her, or she's something different. Otherwise, she portrays something different in front of me. No, nothing. What they see is what I am, and I think that makes a huge difference. So yes, vulnerability is a value. And I think it plays a lot of role in leadership today.
There is a question from the audience. If you could explain more about how to come out of limiting beliefs. If you want to address it, go for it. But I feel like that's a whole session of itself. It's like what coaching can help you with, I suppose. It's a biggie, but if you want to comment.
So quickly we will address the self-limiting beliefs. Is as I said, that anything that has caused you pain so far, anything that you want to do it, but you have a doubt in your head that, okay, will I be able to do it because somebody has said that you were not good in it. I'll give you a classic example. I was initially very good in math, but somewhere down the line something went wrong, and then the self-limiting belief, because somebody would have said in my school days, oh, you're not good in math, and then I started believing it till the time, and it affected me big time. So that whenever, even when I had to get into important occasions, I would dream about my math paper. Now it had so much impact on me, such a simple thing which I left long back, but still it kind of played on my mind till the time I sat down. I wrote math on a big paper, and I canceled it. And I said, I have made peace with you, and I drew a heart around it. That was my way of dealing with math. Now I do joke about it, but that's the way I make peace with everything that has troubled me. So what are your troubling areas? What is it that is troubling you? So there are many whom I have found that, I have met, who've said that I am not able to just go and converse with people. Something stops me. So there are so many people I see who can just go about and talk easily and are comfortable, who can talk about anything and everything under the sun. But I'm not able to do that. So then and then I asked this person, what is it that stops you? And then he said that, I was told never talk to strangers, and in my childhood, and that's something that plays a big role whenever I see people and who are strangers, and I kind of stop myself from going and talking. So now he had identified what his pain point was, and slowly we worked on it, and he could actually go and converse and have a small talk with people. So that's the easiest way to do it, is write it down, draw a flower, draw a heart, make peace with all of it, and then that's when you can actually go ahead.
So yeah, potentially it could be simple, but it could be a process as well, as with all these things.
It is a process. So it's not, I say and it's already done. It does not happen. So I took almost about a month to get over my self-limiting beliefs. So it was not easy.
Yeah. Well, they say that it takes 30 days to build a habit, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
As long as going back to your 3 C's, as long as you're being consistent and doing whatever it is to improve yourself, the new behaviors, it takes a while for it to stick. Same goes for thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. The other thing, Magda, that really matters is words. And then I know that there are coaches and leaders out here, so I don't have to really reiterate it. But yes, words matter. So they matter in creating a personal brand, is because the kind of words that I use in my vocabulary, it definitely makes a very positive impact on my persona. People generally like to be around people who are positive, who are assuring, who would take up challenges. So it's not that I don't acknowledge challenges, or I don't acknowledge that I'm scared of being in a situation. It's just that how do I handle it? And I think my demeanor, my words, my persona, the assurance that I give people through my body language, all of this matters a lot.
All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a tiny bit distracted because somebody was saying that it now takes 66 days to build a habit. Wow. Great. So we're getting worse. I'm going to believe that's even less, just because otherwise I'll never do it. But I did want to mention another resource for everyone. Look up Matt Cutts, and I'll put in his name in the chat. So Matt is, I'm not sure if he is, I think he was, old school Googler who worked on the search algorithm, search for ads, doesn't matter. He was one of the head honcho algorithm guys. And he started doing this thing years ago. I think it's called the 30-day challenge. And there's a TED talk about it, and he's got a blog post about it, where he tackles, in some cases, self-limiting beliefs. In other cases, he tackles skills that he wants to learn, or just things that he wants to try. Like, for example, he wanted to try being vegetarian. So, but his whole theory was that, 30 days it takes to do whatever it is. And he's been really good at documenting it. So after every 30-day challenge, he's written about it, recorded videos, etc. And there's some really cool, like, funny and interesting ones. So I highly encourage you to check out his blog and his TED talk. I think it's really relevant in the context of what we're talking about today, that there's a lot of things that are possible and they sound scary until you apply those 3 C's and just commit yourself to do it. You'll be surprised what you can achieve.
Absolutely. And the first 30 days is the challenge. Once you are over and above the 30 days, it just gets imbibed in your system. So the other way that I do it is creating an Excel sheet and actually writing down all those 30 days. All those green ticks that appear give me a lot of happiness. Then I'm there building the habit. So that's the easiest way to do it.
You
And
really
I put
do
it
that? You have an Excel sheet? That's amazing.
I've really done it. It's all put up on the refrigerator because it's for people to see and comment
Oh,
and hold
I
me.
like that.
Yeah.
Hold you
But
accountable.
hold me accountable, yes. The only thing is I would suggest is not to try too many things at a time. So it's maybe one or two things that I start doing, complete it in 30 days and then move on to the others. Because if I see a whole lot of things, I may not get motivated to do it. So that's my personal thing.
I like that. I tend to write things down by hand because I feel like when it comes to things like this, because then I feel like I'm committing even more when it's pen to
Yes.
paper versus Excel sheet. But just I'm just mindful of time, just so you know, we have about 15 minutes left. And like I said at the beginning of this, there's hours and hours we can talk about this topic. This is basically our first conversation, our first overview. So we will be back here with Pallavi again, and we're hopefully going to online course, so all of you can get in depth as to all of these. So I do want you to finish kind of, you know, talking about the other aspects of personal branding you think are important. But I wanted to focus on one that I think is really timely, in addition to relevant, which is social media. And it's something that's, you know, it's easy to think about social media as part of brands, companies. But a lot of times I feel like, you know, you also hear about employers, for example, using social media to make hiring decisions. And people are either like, yeah, well, duh, because this is who you are, versus others are saying, well, no, this is me on social media is different than me in real life. And I'm keen to hear about what you think about social media in this context.
Oh, as I said in the beginning, there is nothing, you know, which is my personal brand has to be in sync with everything I do. So whether it is my professional side, whether it is my personal side, it's the same me, as transparent and as authentic that I can be. Now, when it comes to social media, it's a big factor in creating a personal brand because people are there watching you. Now, what impressions people will create about you, you do not have a control on them. So the same situation would be kind of perceived by people in different ways. Now, the only thing that I can do is take care of how I use my social media, one, and two, what is it that I post. So you know, it's recommended that when you're building your personal brand, you're not into too much of social media, which means that you could choose any 2 or 3 social media options. Now, whether you choose LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, but not more than 2 or 3, something that you like, because then you are there in a select few, you are not all over the place. And as we said in the beginning, that it has to be subtle and elegant. It's not just, it cannot be jarring to the eyes. So that's one. The second thing is, when I post anything on social media, let it be a little original, which means that I don't have to be a good writer. I just have to write from my heart.
Yeah, be yourself.
Be yourself. So when I write from my heart, you know, it will always come correct. Whether it is posting a picture, whether it is forwarding a good post, there are a few lines that I need to add, which are my own thoughts. And I think that matters. The other thing that matters is I need to be a balanced person. So it's not really advisable that I am on some extreme. When I take a balanced view, I know that you know, I'm respecting people around me. So you know, the one thing that the personal brand is based on is respect. Respect first to myself as a person, And second is the respect to my audience, because audience matters, especially when I'm creating a perception, especially when I'm creating an impression. It's the audience that matters. So when I'm using social media, I have to be aware that I cannot say that's different, and it's just me and my personal thing. No, when I'm posting something online, it's there for people to view it and create an impression.
Yes.
So what impression I want. So anything, I always love to refer to this is that when I have done my pillars, when I have done my hobbies, when I have done my, say, go-to skills, my hobbies can become a part of my social media big time. So if I'm engaged in a cause, say I help students, or I am associated with old age homes, that becomes a cause that I reflect on my social media, and that is how it is reflected in my personal brand. So people know that she is a person who is venturing for a cause, or she is a person who follows her hobbies, or she is a cool person who is taking life one day at a time and enjoying it to the fullest. Now, what do I want my story to be told is something that I will decide beforehand, before posting on social media.
Well, I'd argue also that there could be a nice check after this webinar, where you can go on your social media and see, maybe do the values exercise, but you can see like what are you reflecting in social media. So I do this, I should do this for my others, but I do this on Instagram a lot. I love pictures, I love animals. There's very specific things I love, and I'm not shy about sharing them. But I actually, every now and then, I go to my Instagram and I click on my own profile, because you can see all of my pictures next to each other. And I kind of go, first of all, is this reflecting what I want to reflect? And what's also interesting is when I see changes, let's say like right now, things are a bit more brown and a bit more gray, A, because it's winter in Chicago, and B, because when it's winter, like I get sadder. It is what it is. And it's interesting how I can actually see that in what kind of things I'm posting. So I think I can do the same thing on my Twitter. I can do the same thing on the comments I'm seeing on Facebook, etc., and see if it's lining up to what I want to put out in the world.
Correct. And the other checkpoint is obviously our closest stakeholders. So it's a good idea to have our innermost circle of stakeholders, someone whom you are very close to, whom you trust, who will show you a mirror. Now they are good because you can actually go and ask them, so what do you think about me in terms of being a person, being a friend, being a leader? And it's good in a while to engage our immediate stakeholders, because then they keep updating you on what kind of personal brand you're living, and that helps.
That's scary though too, but then it goes back to your other point about vulnerability, right? You have to be vulnerable in order to be able to do any of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it just helps in sharpening our brand, because yes, knowing yourself is the first part. Doing every little thing possible in terms of living up to the brand is the second thing. But promising yourself that the brand is going to be for, as a continuous process is the third part. And that's where the stakeholders will play a major role.
That makes sense. Scary, but makes sense. I'm just mindful of time. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes left if we can go over a tiny bit. So if there are any specific questions, please post them in the chat. But yeah, Pallavi, is there anything else that you want to share to wrap things up?
Oh yeah. So as we said in the beginning, one, let's be true to ourselves. That's the first thing. It's a good thing to follow a personal strategy for yourself. Invest time in the way I want to build up my personal brand. Invest in relationships, yes, because that's how you get your circle and circle of people around you where you can connect freely. Yes, we also need gratitude because we are in a season where it's a season of gratitude, joy, happiness, investing in relationships. But let's start with ourselves first, uh, where we do all of this. And let's remember that there are little things every day that we do in terms of our behavior, in terms of our the activities, in terms of appearance. Every little thing that I do is going to build my personal brand. And let's remember that it's professional and personal both. That's where I'm going to be seen, how I behave with everyone, how transparent I am, how authentic I am, and how much do I enjoy myself first, so that I enjoy my personal brand as well, makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. So I think an exercise we can all do after this. A, we can check our social media to see how we are showing up. B, we can start appreciating ourselves in front of the mirror. I think that's a very easy one. And I will share the different points that Pallavi has gone through today on our blog. So sorry that we got cut short in time because technical difficulties in the beginning, but I'll put it on our blog so everyone can see those. And we'll keep expanding on this because it's all really useful. Pallavi, is there anything else that people can do right after this webinar in addition to what I said?
Oh, right after the webinar, I think they can just spend time with themselves, knowing themselves. So let's find our value words, let's find our pillars, and let's start working on the personal brand right away.
I like it.
Yeah.
Great. And maybe everyone can hop on the forum that we have, forum.coacharya.com, and maybe share your pillars if you're comfortable with that. I'm definitely looking forward to doing these exercises because it's important, but also I think it's a nice exercise in learning, am I really who I think I am? Or should no, I know who I am, but do others perceive me the same way that I want to be perceived?
Yeah, and the advantage of posting the pillar words out in the open is people who know you will tell you that yes, you really live by those words, or no, you know what, this is not the word, this is the word that probably you live by, and maybe I'm not aware of, and people are giving the feedback. So it really helps to put them out in the public.
Yeah, I like that. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This was really great. I'm looking forward to having you back here for many more sessions with better internet.
Yes, with better internet, I promise.
I'll make sure on my side too. But yeah, thank you so much, Pallavi. It was lovely to see you. And everyone, so Pallavi's company is Harmony Consultants. I will again put it on a blog, so if you want to get in touch with her, she does work obviously with individuals, but also with teams, with groups, with corporates. We were just chatting about a program that she does with new college graduates so that young people coming to university have an easier time transitioning into the workforce. So there's a lot of really interesting work that she does. So I'll put this all on our blog. If someone's asking what are the next steps, post this. Keep an eye on your email. Pallavi and I will connect, and we're going to most likely record more videos, just one-on-one short ones, to guide you through the various steps on developing a personal brand. And we'll put together some exercises that you can do, because this is a really, really big topic and we've only skimmed the surface today. So please, look out in your email from Coacharya and from me, Magda, hi. And you will get some valuable insights from us very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Happy New Year to those of you who I don't see again.
Absolutely. Wonderful 2020.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye.